It didn't surprise me that 15 was written this way for the rest of the season. We live in a time when the mainstream is pushing this idea that masculinity and fearlessness is somehow toxic and should not be presented on the screen.
Citation, please.
Hey guys, welcome to another Let's Shit on the Right Wing show! I am so in need of making a title card for that, it's unbelievable. Anyway, today we are covering someone called GoldenAgeGeek, or as I like to say, Gag. But this week's weird, as you could probably tell by the intro, because I am not doing it alone. Today I have a guest with me. This is Midnight Chimes, a fellow YouTuber and subscriber of the channel. I do recommend going and checking out some of their stuff because they do really good analysis and introspections of Doctor Who and different shows as well. They also go into other things like J.K. Rowling and, well, you can see it right here on screen now. But yeah, I do recommend going and checking out some of their stuff. Highly do recommend, 100%. So go check them out. Link in the description.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me on.
You're very welcome. Let's get into it.
In my opinion, the most recent season of Doctor Who was pretty bad. You may think differently, and that's fine, but overall, I didn't like Ncuti Gatwa's first season. Boom, I will happily defend, and I genuinely think from start to finish that is the best episode we've had since Capaldi left. 73 yards started off amazingly well, but then it fell off towards the end. To be fair, there were a lot of episodes during Capaldi's run that were hard to get through, but Capaldi always elevated them because he was that good, and he was always someone who, when you watched, you were entertained, regardless of the villains or the larger narrative. But for the vast majority of the audience, that hasn't been the case with Gatwa. He doesn't feel like the Doctor to them, so let's discuss why that is.
Well, I think he doesn't feel like the Doctor to a lot of people because he isn't their Doctor. I've seen people say that some more balanced kind of views saying, well, Gatwa's not going to feel like your type of Doctor because he isn't your Doctor. Because you can't just carbon copy the same Doctor 15 times. Like, I mean, that's my take on it anyway. Yeah, no, there won't be any kind of twists or turns. It'll all be very predictable. So my Doctor.
Yeah, I think we're gonna.
You go.
I think we're gonna get into this later on, but when he gets into reading the article, but Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor is different from the incarnations that have gone before. He's got his own quirks and unique characteristics, and they might not be for everyone, but I think it's better for the Doctor to be like that than just, as you say, like Ncuti Gatwa doing an impersonation of David Tennant, for instance, because that wouldn't be very interesting.
It'd all just be very predictable. I mean, my Doctor, as I've stated before, that's Sylvester McCoy. I resonate best with that Doctor. I love Seven and Ace, best duo in my opinion. But I would never want to see another version of Seven's Doctor because it will undermine his Doctor to me. And I think having a carbon... This why I don't like 14 as much, because it feels like a carbon copy of the 10th Doctor. And I think the 60th anniversary was a perfect example of why each Doctor is different and why they have to be different, because then it's not ripping off the same idea. Yeah.
Opinion. 5 big reasons why the 15th Doctor isn't working. Increased cowardice. Historically, the Doctor has been portrayed as a practically fearless hero who confronts cosmic threats with brilliance and bravery. The man that stops the monsters, if you will. Previous incarnations, regardless of their quirks, embodied a steadfast courage and determination. However, the 15th Doctor deviates from this legacy, spending a considerable amount of time visibly frightened and fleeing from danger. In episode 1, he runs away from a snot monster, in episode 2, he flees from Maestro, and in episode 3, he is stuck on a mine, displaying a level of fear uncharacteristic for the Doctor.
I'm just gonna hold there before it goes into episode 4 and 5. I do get this. I mean, in the first episode, it's explained straight away with it is explained with how the monster's designed to put fear in. It's I don't remember much from episode 1 because I didn't like Space Babies at all, but what I can remember after my rewatch and my notes is that the snot monster was designed to create fear, and the Doctor did say after he ran away from it that the fear that he felt was unnatural, and it wasn't. He did acknowledge that it wasn't normal for him in that comment.
The cowardice thing is not something I've particularly noticed. I mean, being scared of, like, Maestro, for instance. I mean, yes, okay, he was scared. Perhaps he did come across as very intimidated, but it's kind of like, well,
he heard the giggle.
That context, it's right to be it's right to be scared. Even the Doctor, I'd expect him to be scared. Like it adds a feeling of there being stakes in that episode, that this is a really big deal.
Yeah, I mean, he gets GoldenAgeGeek goes into episode 3 in a minute, and I'll let him kind of talk about that because I think he'll say similar things to what I might say, well, in the most part. And with Maestro as well, when Maestro reveals themselves, he hears the giggle, and he literally explains why he's so scared, because the last time he heard the giggle was with the toy maker, who literally ripped him in parts, ripped his soul in two during the bi-generation, which now we know that the bi-generation has consequences. It has that lasting physical turmoil consequence of having your soul ripped in two. So it's probably something that can't happen again, and personally I hope it doesn't, because then it's something unique to this iteration of the Doctor. That's just personal feelings on that, but it is explained, the fear and the quote unquote cowardice. Episode 4 and 5, they are quite Doctor-like, but we'll continue on with the article.
Episodes 4 and 5 are notably Doctor-light, with the character's presence significantly reduced, a problem in its own right. In episode 6, his focus shifts away from the monsters due to his preoccupation with Rogue. The finale further underscores this trend, where the Doctor is depicted as scared stiff of Sutekh despite having fought him before with such confidence. This recurring theme of fear and avoidance undermines the Doctor's traditional role as a courageous and resourceful hero, making the character feel less like the inspiring figure fans have admired for over 60 years and more like a passive participant in his own adventures.
I'm going to say with Sutekh, I watched Pyramids of Mars literally hours before The Legend of Ruby Sunday, anticipating that we'd get Sutekh. And in part 4, Sutekh takes over the Doctor's mind controls him. The Doctor can't do anything to stop it. Of course he's going to be scared of that. Of course it's going to be fear, because that's going to have lasting consequences. Even though Sutekh was defeated quite easily in the end, he still spent half of that final part under the control of Sutekh.
Yeah, one thing that I would say about that, the way it's worded in the article kind of makes it out that in Pyramid of Mars, the Doctor, Tom Baker, was never afraid of Sutekh. And it says, like, he's depicted as being scared stiff of Sutekh, despite having fought him before with such confidence. But it's kind of like, did you watch part 4 of Pyramids of Mars? I mean, the beginning of that story, like, when the Doctor's being tortured in Sutekh's chamber, he looks pretty scared to me.
Yeah, like that.
And even when he's acting with confidence, which Tom Baker, again, it's kind of like a front. Tom Baker would always sort of put on a front of being very confident in the face of danger, but that doesn't mean he's not taking it seriously. I mean, it's a plot point throughout that story, Pyramids of Mars, that the Doctor is taking the threat of Zootek extremely seriously. He's very grave and somber about it all through that story.
Yeah. And Pyramids of Mars is fantastic for that as well. Like, I think for Pyramids of Mars, and I'm going on a little side tangent here, but who cares? For Pyramids of Mars, that final part for me does kind of solidify how good that story is, because it does kind of start off a little bit slow, building up Sutek, building up the mystery, but it does pay off in the end, and that to me is why Pyramids of Mars is such a good story. It also gives me one of my favourite Tom Baker, Sarah Jane moments, where they both walk in to see the mummy and then both walk out backwards, like in sync.
Oh yes, that's a great moment.
That's a fantastic moment, and that when I first saw that in the Goodbye Elizabeth Sladen memorial thing they did for CBBC, which broke my heart, and I love rewatching that because it just shows what a great person Liz Sladen was, and what a great character Sarah Jane was, and how that one character touched a lot of people in multiple generations. Anyway, side tangent over. I do want to talk briefly about how the Doctor Light episodes, I think we did have one too many, because I love having the inclusion of the odd Doctor Light episode in RTD1, and because it felt like something fresh. Having a back-to-back one though, I mean, I get why scheduling conflicts for Sex Education 4, but having a back-to-back one, you could have saved, if we didn't have the scheduling conflicts, you could have saved Dot and Bubble for Series 2. Right, and just rewritten it, because you would have rewritten it for the third time, Russell. Wouldn't have been too much of a problem. I would have preferred to have episode 4 to
especially
episode
in a
5,
series that's only 8 episodes long,
which is another
it
conversation.
feels like you have the 2 Doctor Light episodes, and then after that it kind of feels like, oh, we're at the finale already, but the series we've only just met this Doctor, we've only just met Ruby, the series has only just started.
It's
and
why
we're already at the finale.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird.
I don't like the 8 episode. If you're gonna do something like Russell did, wants to go back with this kind of story arc, kind of weaving in key things. If you do want to do that and have fleeting mentions of your story arc, it's better over a 10 episode series at least. Because I think 10 episodes for the 2 more episodes I would have been happy with, because I would have been because I wanted more out of this series, out of the Doctor and Ruby. I genuinely think 2 more episodes and 2 more single part stories, we would have it would have lifted up the series a lot more, because I liked the Whittaker era for their 10 episodes threat, like series 11 and 12. I enjoyed having 10 episodes. I felt like I always felt 13 was a little bit much, because they'll end up being at least a dud in each series. I'm gonna use series 4 as a exception to that rule, and I'll get into series 4 in another video and defend that in another video. I've said in this, my latest one, it's not a 10 out of 10, but it's still really damn good. And then going into Stephen Moffat's era, having 12-13 episodes, it still felt like a bit much. So I liked the Chibnall's era for having those 10 episode seasons. Well, those 2 10 episode seasons. Flux, actually, no, Flux worked as well. I think again, Flux needed 1 or 2 more episodes in that.
It did, really.
Yeah. The Vanquishers just sucked. Bad.
Yeah.
It was a bad way to
I feel like
end.
we're getting sidetracked here, but
Oh yeah, this happens all the time.
Yeah, we can always edit this out, but yeah, Flux The trouble was it was kind of like Chibnall trying to tell like a 10 episode long series length story in 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Was the impression that I got of it.
Yeah. Oh my god! Wait, I could do an I could do like a second version of this video just completely uninterrupted on Patreon. That'll be great. Oh, that's not a bad idea actually. Well, then they could see all the blunders and the stuff that gets edited out. Hello, people on Patreon. If there's anyone over there, which there hasn't been, but I don't care. Right, let's see what he's got to say on it.
Again, I agree with this for the most part. I will push back on their criticism of him in Boom. As soon as he heard someone scream, he ran straight towards the danger, which isn't an act of cowardice. It made sense that he was scared once he was on the mine, as at any point he could have caused Ruby, this little girl, and potentially thousands of other people to die. He also saw Ruby get gunned down. It didn't surprise me that 15 was written this way for the rest of the season. We live in a time when the mainstream is pushing this idea that masculinity and fearlessness is somehow toxic and should not be presented on the screen.
Okay, there's something that I can go on a tangent about. There's the reason people tune into these videos, I think. We don't really live in a time when anything masculine or anything kind of fearless is deemed toxic. At least not from where I'm sitting. Because when people look and think of toxic masculinity, they push genuinely towards misogyny, homophobia, and things like that, not masculinity as a whole. And I do think having people say that everyone sees masculinity as toxic. If you're all masculine, then you're automatically toxic. I think that is, in itself, a toxic idea, and it just kind of go around in a circle. But I've never heard anyone say being fearless is toxic.
My immediate reaction to that when he said about masculinity always being portrayed as something toxic was, citation please.
Yeah.
What's your evidence for that?
Yeah.
Because like you'll notice that these kind of reactionary YouTubers do this an awful lot, where they'll just make a broad statement like that and then not back it up with any kind of argument or any kind of evidence. It's just like, such as, I think that's what Mr. Tardis always used to say in some of his reactions. He'd be like, such as, and that's the kind of vibe I get here.
Yeah.
I will give him some credit though, and just a very small amount of credit, because I find it interesting that he is actually defending Boom here, which is quite interesting for these kind of YouTubers who do these reactionary thumbnails talking about how Doctor Who has gone woke and Doctor Who is dying. Usually a lot of the time they're very, very one note. Like, for instance, you reacted to Bolstrek recently, I believe, and
I did.
Literally everything he does, it has to be negative. It has to be outrage, because that's the audience that he has cultivated, and that's what they come to his content for. So, if a new episode of Doctor Who comes out, he can't ever praise it or say anything positive about it. Everything has to be negative.
Yeah.
So I'll give this guy a tiny little bit of credibility, but just a little bit, for the fact there's a small amount of good faith in there, and the fact that he is actually willing to acknowledge, okay, well, this thing works. This episode is good. There's slightly more good faith in that sense.
Lack of initiative and heroism. The 15th Doctor often relies on others to solve problems, stepping back when action is needed most. This is starkly evident in most of the episodes of his first season. In episode 1, he fails to properly deal with the monster at the climactic moment. Episode 2 sees the Beetle saving the day instead of the Doctor. In episode 3, an AI steps in to resolve the crisis. By episode 4, with the Doctor gone due to his incompetence, it's Ruby who takes charge. In episode 5, the Doctor gives up easily without even attempting another resolution. In episode 6, it's Rogue who saves the day. Even in the two-part finale, he breaks down and needs encouragement from Mel, and while the Doctor does latterly play more of an active role, it's Ruby who is ultimately more pivotal to the resolution. This tendency to rely on others undermines the Doctor's traditional role as the primary problem solver and leader. Previous incarnations, while often assisted by companions, have always been the ones to devise plans, take decisive actions, and lead the charge against threats. This proactive and ingenious nature is a core aspect of what has made the Doctor such an enduring and admired character. The new portrayal, where the Doctor frequently steps back or gives up too easily, risks presenting him as less capable and less heroic, which could be disheartening for fans who admire the Doctor's usual decisiveness and resourcefulness. This was
So, what was your take on that then?
Well, again, similar to before. The article's kind of acting like this is a new thing, kind of like with Pyramids of Mars, and I'm kind of like, have you watched series 4? Like, have we forgotten about the whole arc and Davros's speech in the finale? Like, you take people and you fashion them into weapons, never carrying a gun, but you fashion people into weapons. Like, other people kind of like saving the day for the Doctor, whether you like that or not, is not a new thing with Ncuti Gatwa.
No. And
that's the kind of main response I would have to that.
And I'm going to say, like, in episode 2, when the Beatles end up saving the day, it's because the Doctor did start off the notes. He missed one note, as Maestro said. It was a bum note. And the Beatles just had to click, well, I say the Beatles, 2 of them just had to click one note, and then it was sorted. Like, because the Doctor made a mistake and put him and Ruby in that danger. But if the Doctor hadn't missed that note, then he would have sorted it himself. So I was going to say that he did 90% of the work there.
You can't say that Doctor's not involved in the resolution of that.
And that's you could say it's the same in episode 3, because he coerces the AI into doing it. The AI would not have done it on its own regard. The Doctor had that level of play. And especially in episode 3, he is stuck in that one scenario, in that one situation. He cannot do anything. He is forced to stay there and is forced to get something else, figure out another plan, use the things around him. Like, so I don't really get why episode 3 is kind of fueling the whole why this didn't work, and this is more of a dig at the opinion piece, because it doesn't make sense to say that, especially in regards to episodes 2 and 3.
To be fair to the opinion piece, the article that he's reading, as far as I can tell, it is written in good faith as a critique of the show, but I don't agree with a lot of it, I have to say.
Sexualization. The Doctor has traditionally been portrayed as a distinctly non-sexual being, a trait that has accentuated his alien nature and sets him apart from human norms. Historically, from the classic era through the 1996 TV movie, romantic entanglements were non-existent, apart from an amusing misunderstanding in the Aztecs. Even during the revival, romantic moments were typically handled with an awkward, non-sexual edge, or were driven by other characters rather than the Doctor himself. In contrast, the 15th Doctor's sudden and intense romantic pursuit of Rogue represents a dramatic shift. Rather than maintaining the Doctor's characteristic emotional distance and focus on duty, this incarnation appears to disregard these traits entirely. His preoccupation with a love interest, to the point of neglecting his responsibilities and risking the safety of his companion, feels completely out of sync with the Doctor's established persona. This rapid transition from a traditionally reserved figure to one seemingly driven by immediate, unconsidered attraction undermines the character's complexity and raises questions about his consistency and moral integrity. Additionally, the 15th Doctor's casual use of terms like honey and babes further distances this portrayal.
So, I really like the 1996 TV movie mainly because it aired on my birthday in 1990. Well, it was if I was born in 1996, I'd have the same birthday as that, quite literally. But it was aired on the 27th of May, which is the day I was born, so I kind of have a soft spot for the TV movie. There's that and Pyramid at the End of the World. Another story I have a soft spot for are the only two stories to air on that day. But in the TV movie, there was the first real proper romantic entanglement, and that was with the one-off companion Grace, where she kind of kisses the Doctor, and then the Doctor has his own "I am the Doctor" moment, and she's like, "Do that again," and he goes in for the kiss, and that. Now, I've said this before, I do not like it when the Doctor has romantic interests. I don't. I really don't. For me, it doesn't suit with the character, and if that has anything to do with the fact that Sylvester McCoy is my favourite Doctor, then so be it. I just don't like it. It's something for me that takes away from Rogue. It's why I don't like Rose. It's actually why I don't mind Martha, because it's only one way. It's not reciprocated. I don't know if that makes sense or not. River, I can accept it with River because she's more of a mystery box character, and I use the terms honey and babes for anyone I see. Like literally calling people, being polite at work. I just say hun. I got accused of being flirty and reported. That was a very fun something to laugh at. But I use the term hun all the time, so I don't really understand the critique about that.
With regard to the bit about him saying honey and babes, I mean, I guess it's similar to the 13th Doctor saying fam. Little quirks like that might be annoying to certain people. I suppose I get that, but that goes back to the point about how this Doctor is unique. This incarnation of the Doctor has his own unique quirks and things, and that's been the case all the way through the history of the show. Like, for instance, you go back to when John Pertwee first became the Doctor, and he had the Venusian karate and the suave kind of James Bond type characteristics. That had never been done with the Doctor before. Like, all that was new at the time. So it's far more interesting to have the Doctor keep evolving and have the new incarnations be distinct, even in more just kind of superficial ways to do with terms of endearment they might use and stuff like that, rather than have like Ncuti Gatwa be doing an impersonation of David Tennant or one of the earlier Doctors, because that would be a lot less interesting. But as far as the love interest stuff, you mentioned the Doctor and Rose. I don't really like the romance between the Doctor and Rose, but the idea of the Doctor kind of having romance in general, I guess it's one of those things that's also quite subjective. But to me, the big issue with it is more when it feels very human, which it kind of did with Rose. And Rose, of course, is just a 19-year-old girl, or I guess 20 years old maybe by the time of Series 2, but like, she's a young human girl from Earth, compared to the Doctor, who's an enigmatic, centuries, thousands of year old, as we now know, Time Lord, and an alien. So there's a kind of disconnect and power imbalance there, and that was one of my concerns that I had about the Doctor and Yasmin as well when that was teased. With Rogue, I didn't mind that so much, because Rogue is a kind of, similar to Captain Jack in a way. A lot of people have already made that comparison. Is more of a space adventurer kind of character who's a bounty hunter who has his own fancy spaceship. So he's kind of more on an equal footing with the Doctor in that sense.
Overly emotional. The 15th Doctor shed tears in all but one of the stories in his first series. While showcasing vulnerability can deepen a character's relatability, the frequent display of such intense emotion, particularly crying, should be reserved for moments of significant narrative weight to maintain its impact. Historically, the Doctor has been a character of immense emotional depth, but these emotions have been carefully rationed to preserve their significance. Excessive crying risks trivializing these powerful moments and can lead to an impression of the Doctor as overly fragile, which contrasts sharply with the traditionally resilient and composed demeanor that fans have come to expect. This shift to a more consistently emotional Doctor could lead to a dilution of those poignant moments that have historically defined the character's depth and complexity. For instance, scenes where previous Doctors might have shown steely resolve or a quiet moment of reflection are now filled with overt displays of emotion. While emotional vulnerability can be a strength, its overuse in this context may erode the Doctor's image as a figure of stability and strength, potentially making it harder for the audience to see him as the confident and assured hero who can navigate the universe's myriad dangers with determination.
I personally don't mind a Doctor who's more in touch with their emotion. Like, for me, that's a nice new change for this Doctor. I mean, we've got the picture right there. We've seen 10, 12 Doctors have been in touch with their emotions before, just not as much as Ncuti. I mean, for me, I haven't actually noticed. On my original watches, the only times I really noticed when the Doctor would get emotional is during those few moments. I mean, two stand out, that being the end of In Dot and Bubble. That, to me, that ending was powerful. Ncuti's reaction was powerful, and that genuinely had me feeling wow. Like, and then obviously we all know the moment in Rogue where the Doctor is led to believe that Ruby is dead. Like, that was the first time I noticed him cry, until it was pointed out to me for every other episode. That was the first time I noticed Ncuti's Doctor cry, and I think that's more of me on attention to detail again. But yeah, that's just that.
Yeah, little side tangent from me now, but the ending of Dot and Bubble, Ncuti Gatwa is acting his socks off there. It's such a great performance. He's not in that episode very much, but when he is in that episode, he is acting his socks off, and it is very powerful, that ending. As far as the Doctor crying and the Doctor being emotional, I'm aware that it has become a bit of a meme, the Doctor crying in every episode. But here's the thing for me about the criticism of the Doctor being too emotional, or the Doctor being overly emotional. The Doctor, as a character, one of their sort of core traits, for me certainly, that makes them the Doctor, is that they are a deeply caring and compassionate character. That's why I never really got on board with all like the Peter Capaldi stuff of having lines like, "Oh, this is Clara, she cares, so I don't have to." It's like, what? That's not the Doctor. Because the Doctor, the core trait of the Doctor is literally that the Doctor cares and has compassion about things. And it relates back to that point again, that Ncuti Gatwa's incarnation of the Doctor, this unique take on the Doctor, is a version of the Doctor that is more a version that wears their heart on their sleeve. So he is more... everything's more surface level, like I was saying earlier. He's more kind of liberated, more heart on his sleeve, so he'll openly express his emotions rather than kind of putting up a front. So I guess you could argue that it maybe makes him look a bit like a bit of a wimple or whatever, but it fits with the character and this particular incarnation of the character.
I think that article perfectly explains why Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor doesn't feel like the other Doctors. RTD has fundamentally changed the character because he has all this power and control now. This is what you get when Russell was given, for the most part, total creative freedom. He's way past his prime, he is fully on board with all these agendas and wants to use Doctor Who as a vehicle to push his messages out into the world, and as a result, this once great show has suffered immensely. Tell me.
And obviously, I'll just do his outro then, and so tell me what you thought in the comments. Oh, this is the juicy stuff.
Like,
this is the juicy stuff.
Citation.
Exactly.
Russell T Davies, he's pushing his agenda, he's pushing his messages, such as what is his agenda then?
The trans woke agenda, so scary. Yes, I am terrifying. Thank you very much. It's the same old stuff from literally every single person I have covered. It's all the same. Oh, Russell T Davies is all woke and he's this king of the woke and things like that, and it's just so generic, I'm gonna say, but like, they never have anything to back it up. Oh my god, yeah, they're NPCs.
And anything they do have to pack, this is the way it goes. Like, the language is deliberately kind of ambiguous and unobfuscated, so that they can use it as like a dog whistle, essentially. So, because if you complain about something being woke, people can't say that you're being racist or transphobic or bigoted, because woke is a word that doesn't really mean anything. But they won't give examples of what they actually mean. And on the rare occasion they do give an example, it amounts to, oh, there was a black person in it, or there was a trans person in it, and that is what makes it woke.
Like I said at the beginning of the video, this one was different for a number of reasons, and I genuinely really enjoyed this. Like, doing these videos alone is kind of getting a bit boring. So if you guys do want to see me do more collabs with other content creators, or want me to bring Midnight Chimes back onto the channel, because you are definitely welcome back. Like, that's not being sarcastic. I know sometimes I could come across as sarcastic, but you are welcome back at any point. I think coming up with a new idea is definitely on the table for me. But yeah, so if you guys do want to see more with other content creators, then do let me know, because yeah, I am up for that. Anyone who does watch this video and has their own content, join the Discord. Just join the Discord. It's the easiest way for me to get to know you and talk more, and check out your content and things like that. Just join the Discord. It's pretty dead, but I have plans, I promise. Anyway, that's all from me. Thank you very much for watching this video, and yeah, we will both see you next time. Bye.